Hey guys, Brian here. Today we have a 1958 Triad boiler. And what had happened was the gas valve stopped opening and it stopped heating the home. So today we're gonna fix it. I had diagnosed it and there is no amperage coming from the mercury switch here. So I believe the mercury switch is what had failed. We're going to replace that today. Okay, the first thing we want to make sure to do, which I had already done, as you see there's no flame, is you want to shut off the main gas valve.
Hi, Papa.
And, hi, kid. And you want to shut off your pilot light gas valve. An easy way to tell that they're off is when the pipe goes through. If the handle goes through, the valve is open. If the handle looks like it shuts it off, it's off. And as you can see, both of these are sideways and we don't hear any gas and the flame is off, if you guys can see down in there. Next, now that our flame is off, we're going to remove, if you can see it, we're going to be removing the gas line for the pilot here to here. I had already unplugged the mercury switch as well as made sure the power to the unit was off. Okay, as you can see, we got the pilot light gas tube disconnected. And one thing I wanted to say or talk about is, how does this thing work? So as you look in there and you see that rod right there, right behind the rod is the pilot light. So it ignites a flame. Now the flame heats up or touches that rod. And as the flame ignites and heats up that rod, it has this little wire that goes all the way along and all the way to your mercury switch. What that does is, as it gets hot, it sends a small amount of amperage down it. And I believe it's like 30 milliamps, something very small. I don't know the exact amount, but it sends this amperage telling the furnace, hey, I have a flame. It sends it down into your gas valve so that your gas valve knows whether to open and let a bunch of gas flood in or stay shut, because you don't want to flood your house with a bunch of gas if there is no flame down there. So that is kind of the purpose of this flame sensor. My helper here, do you want to say anything today? No, not today. Okay, thanks for being here and helping me out. Another thing is these old boilers, as you can see, there's just this plate right here that was welded. Just a plate was welded in, and that's this single screw right here is what's holding my burner assembly, or my pilot assembly on. So next we're going to remove this screw and we're going to pull the whole assembly out. Okay, now normally there's this metal piece right here that sits in front of it. I had already removed it so that I could check to see if the flame was actually engulfing the flame sensor, which it was, but it's held on by this little screw right here. So you just loosen that screw and you can slide off this little metal piece. Now, there is our assembly unit, flame sensor and pilot light. Now it's a good idea, as you can see, if I can get in a little closer on that there's a little bit of corrosion, a little bit of dust on the pilot light itself. One thing to make sure is that that little hole, if you do take it apart, that hole right here faces the flame sensor, because that's where the flame sensor is going to come from. And the flames for your burners are those two on each side. So next we're going to fully loosen this piece, take apart these screws here, and remove the flame sensor from the unit. And I'm going to go ahead and clean up the pilot light unit itself. Okay, we got the screws off, and one thing I always like to point out to everybody is either take a quick picture or do a quick sketch of how it was together. How was this bracket onto the pilot light? What side was it on? What holes were they in? Just to make sure you put things back together the same way. Once you get the bracket off, then there's just that one screw that's holding the flame sensor in. All you have to do is just remove it. Now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna clean up all of this and get ready to reinstall everything. All right, guys, all cleaned up. The new flame sensor is installed. Now I'm gonna put the cover on. Okay. And this is what it looks like with the cover on. So it kind of just blocks the outside wind a little bit from the flame so that the flame sensor stays engulfed with fire. Sometimes you have to adjust this a little bit by bending it up, back, forward. But usually you do that while it's installed so you can see if it is an issue or not. Okay, guys. Got the burner installed, new flame sensor, the bracket back on. I looked back at an old picture that I took to make sure I have the burner in the right spot. How this looks, it looks like it moved a little bit. That's what threw me off. But when you look back at the old picture, it shows just a little gap right here, so that's in the right position. Next we gotta rehook up the gas and then plug it in and see if we got flame. Okay, guys, we've got the gas line hooked back up, the cover back on, the new flame sensor installed. I plugged in the mercury switch and I went ahead and tucked the wires back into the cover of the gas valve and tightened it back down. The next thing to do is to turn the power back on, turn the gas on the pilot, which is the little one, and manually ignite the pilot light and make sure that we have flame. All right, guys, just got the pilot light lit. And as you can see, there's two nice pellets in front of each of the burners, and that one in the middle is the one that's engulfing the flame sensor. Everything looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the main gas valve and turn the power on, and let's see if we got heat. All right, guys, and as you can tell, you can hear the burners firing up. I'm gonna try to get down there so you can see what it looks like underneath. And you can see now the burners are heating up the boiler, which is gonna send the hot water through the house, warming up the house. And there you go, guys. That's how you replace a mercury switch on a broken 1958 Triad boiler.